The schemers that got out ahead of the collapse are then only encouraged to come up with another scheme as they walk away laughing. The greater fool is always left holding the bag. Amir says that he got into Bitcoin through all these online poker sites. These poker sites have been driven offshore and in some cases out of business. So Amir decided to write his own open source poker game. The only system that he could use was Bitcoin.
Well, I actually got into Bitcoins through poker. What happened is a few months ago, a while back, I started to think about, because I was actually playing poker full time for 2 years, and I started to think to myself, you know, what if I just started writing an open source poker client? It's not a hard thing to make, and I just release it out there, and people start to set up their own poker sites. What I would do is just lower the barrier of entry to nothing. And I looked around, and there's no payments systems that existed, but the only thing I found was Bitcoin. And as I started to look more at Bitcoin, I started to realize, wow, this is really something that's amazing.
Yeah, it is something amazing. Here's a scheme that gets around the online poker chip problem, the securities issues, and use the psychology of virtual currencies like World of Warcraft gold, or growing a world of virtual and real money. I mean, even Chinese prison slaves are now being forced to mine electric gold instead of breaking real rocks. The limited supply and growing interest will encourage less and less transactions and more speculation. Then you have to ask the question, what can you really buy with Bitcoin? And the truth is, not much. And geez, if your computer crashes or is stolen, you're toast. In fact, 3 days before the June 19th Bitcoin flash crash, $500,000 of Bitcoin were stolen. I even finished that article by saying I wouldn't be surprised to see their value drop over the course of the day as the news spread of the theft. And 3 days later, the flash crash happened. The theft and the flash crash happened right around the exact same time that the Bitcoin boys did a special presentation with the CIA in the middle of June. And of course you have to ask the question, who bought all those Bitcoins at 1 cent the day that it crashed? But let me get to that a little bit later. And truth be told, as it's going up so fast, you would be a fool to spend Bitcoins as money, because it's going up just as fast as an asset. Over a year ago, you might have bought a t-shirt for 20 Bitcoins. Now those Bitcoins are worth about $1,000. That's a really expensive t-shirt, which of course is the real motivation behind these schemes, as these poker players know the game and they're very good at judging others and how to take their money.
These two have no idea what they're about to walk into. Down here to have a good time, they figure, why not give poker a try? After all, how different can it be from the home games they've played their whole lives? All the luck in the world isn't going to change things for these guys. They're simply overmatched. We're not playing together, but then again, we're not playing against each other either. It's like the Nature Channel. You don't see piranhas eating each other, do you?
Now things start to get interesting. Towards the end of this interview on May 10th, an interview, by the way, that catapulted Bitcoin up 50% on that day from $4 to $6, Gavin openly discusses that he will be giving a presentation about Bitcoin in the middle of June to the CIA.
Has the FBI called you guys, the CIA? Have your phones been tapped?
Actually, I'll be giving a presentation talking about Bitcoin at the CIA, at CIA headquarters in Lansing, Virginia, in the middle of June. So Bitcoin has definitely popped up to the intelligence community's radar, and I'm going to be very interested to find out kind of what their concerns are, and try to find out a little bit from them of what do they think of Bitcoin. I mean, it's
they invited you. You contacted them. How did that occur? CIA.
They contacted me.
Really?
So
how does that occur? You get a phone call and it's like, "Hi, this is Jason from the CIA. Would you mind coming down here and telling us about your open source project?"
Actually, kind of, yeah. They actually have they have basically what's a venture capital firm that's owned by the CIA that invests in startups that they think might be useful to this or interesting to the CIA. So
yep,
this
I know it.
Person from
In-Q-Tel.
In-Q-Tel, that's them.
So In-Q-Tel was the intermediary.
Yep, they're the intermediary, and they I believe they have something to do with organizing. They have an emerging technology conference they put on for the intelligence community. And this year, they're talking about money, so they're very interested in Bitcoin. And I'll
When is
go
that?
and
When is that?
that's the middle of June.
The fact that this is not the FBI, Department of Justice, or SEC that would handle criminal or securities issues make me wonder if something's even more nefarious at play here. He is going to speak in front of the venture capital firm of the CIA called In-Q-Tel. For those of you that don't know, In-Q-Tel is a private company that specializes in high-tech companies that are of great use to the intelligence community. I believe that In-Q-Tel is the real power behind the powerhouses such as Google and Facebook. I've always doubted that the guys like the Google boys and Zuckerberg could have pulled off such tremendous feats without huge teams working behind the scenes. I mean, after all, if a government or an elite wanted as much information on its slaves as possible to control them, they could, in the past, assign teams of agents to work many hours interviewing and digging through files, or they could set up systems that would allow instant access across many platforms like the Promise program or Carnivore. We see from the recent census that many people are very uncomfortable about giving away their private information to a government. But through programs like Facebook and Google, people are willingly giving away the farm because they feel safe. Now we live in a world where your phone tracks you in real time, can now even eavesdrop you, even when your phone's turned off, and the only way to prevent this is to pull the battery out, which is why most new phones you can't do that. Even your laptop camera and microphone can record you in your house, like the Pennsylvania school case. And what about the possibility of creating your own whistleblowing site like WikiLeaks to control whistleblowing? How about every single picture you take on a digital camera is time-stamped and GPS coordinates on it? I mean, this is a great way for weirdos to stalk you and your family, especially if those weirdos are from the government. So why would the CIA be interested in Bitcoin? Gavin says that there's an intelligence technology conference this year and that the main issue is money. He says, yeah, they're very interested in money. I'll cover another aspect of this with Jim Rickards and his currency wars and a call for a gold standard and what I believe is the next Hegelian dialectic. The CIA is probably very interested in money because they know the dollar is going to collapse and that all their power is derived off of that dollar. So now they're probably looking for alternatives to keep their power going. And I'm of the opinion that there's a huge black ops part of the government with huge interest in illegal activities like drug importation from Afghanistan. I mean, after all, the poppy production has increased many fold since we've taken it over and the Taliban put a stop to it. So could Bitcoin be used as an alternative currency outside the banking system and those pesky politicians and regulators, like the ones that recently busted HSBC for laundering drug money? The same HSBC that was created from the Opium Wars? I mean, after all, a banking system is going to collapse, and when it all goes down, there's going to be a lot of bankers squealing about illegal activities to cover their asses. So far, Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme at best, or a CIA-controlled scheme at worst. These highly intelligent, forward-thinking guys are trying to find a way to deal with this new paradigm. Collapsing dollar, freedom movement, hacktivism, blowbacks from decades of illegal and immoral activities. It is too bad that these guys don't listen to the oath that they took to preserve and protect the Constitution. Maybe they think that technologies like Bitcoin can serve as a model for a new dollar. Or maybe that they're using it to set up schemes that a fascist corporate power can use currency to collapse the dollar. There is news that Amazon is launching their own money in May. So who knows? All I know is that this will not end well. After the world gets screwed by the digital fiat illusion of the dollar, backed by the largest and most powerful empire, do you really think people are going to trust another digital currency? Especially when the lights go out? The dollar with all of its flaws is still a better currency than Bitcoin, because you can pay all your real expenses like housing, transportation, energy, food, entertainment, schooling, medical care. Bitcoin cannot, and is simply a Ponzi scheme wrapped in a techie's dream. I believe that the dollar collapse will take another generation after this collapse to fool people into another scheme based on nothing but confidence. So let's bring this full circle. When we can see that there are clear elements of a Ponzi scheme in Bitcoin, but the majority cannot see trillions of times larger Ponzi scheme of the dollar, those that buy in Bitcoin are not really buying Bitcoins. They're buying into a paradigm that benefits them, that they believe will net them profits. But as soon as it becomes apparent that it no longer benefits them, they will dump it and never be touched again. The same will go for the dollar. There will come a time when the dollar will have no benefit to producers of oil or labor, and it will no longer be accepted. They will sell their dollars for anything that has real, tangible assets. So the race is on to what will collapse first, the dollar or Bitcoin again. I mean, what will be worth more in the end? A digital Ponzi scheme currencies or real assets like silver? I only stack silver because it has been used in more times and more societies throughout 6,000 years of history as money. In fact, silver and money are synonymous in many languages. Silver is a highly undervalued real asset and the second most useful commodity next to oil that just so happens to be way below its real and nominal high set 30 years ago after quadrillions of dollars have been put into this world market and the whole world has opened up to globalism. And we are, for the first time in history, not tied to any real assets, and the largest global fiat currency war is just about to begin. As a libertarian, I don't care what people do in private. I'm just tired of people trying to push their Bitcoin on me, which is why I created this video. I think competition in currency is the answer, and if cryptocurrencies are in the mix, then people will do what they will. But ahead of the single largest event in human history, and the largest wealth transfer from intangible paper digital assets to real tangible assets, you can have your hashtags and bitcoins. As for me, I will stick to cold hard cash. And one final thought that no one can get around. When a few get something for nothing, at some point in a zero-sum game, most will get nothing for something.